Super Earth, our home. Prosperity. Liberty.
Hi there.
Democracy. Our way of life.
Oh, hello.
But freedom doesn't come free.
No! Sweet liberty! No!
Hello guys, and welcome back to the Scotty YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well, and today I'm going to return to and review a game that took the world by storm just over a year ago, only for controversy to reduce the player base a few months after launch. That game is Helldivers 2. It's a game I really enjoyed when I first played it, but I haven't picked it up really since. I feel like it's a great time to return to it and review it for the channel 1 year on. So let's get started. Let's start by going over a brief summary of the game for those of you that haven't played it or potentially have just been under a rock for the last year and a bit. In summary, Helldivers 2 is a cooperative third-person shooter. A team of Helldivers have to defend Super Earth from various threats by using any means available to them to complete missions and push back the various enemies and eradicate them from worlds. Helldivers 2 was released on the 8th of February 2024, so just over a year ago now. But it did also have significant controversy that overshadowed some of its success later on. So let's talk about gameplay first. There's a reason that Helldivers 2 is so critically acclaimed, and one of those is definitely the gameplay. It's set up by a really good premise, it's simple gameplay and also enjoyable, and it also offers really good progression for players of the game. It's probably one of the best co-op games I've played, and I don't say that lightly. It's definitely up there with something like Left 4 Dead, which is another multiplayer co-op game that I really enjoy. Friendly fire incidents are common and hilarious, and the fact that you can just respawn your friends allows you to quickly call them back for help after you accidentally blow them to pieces. The combat itself is not overly complicated, but new weapons and unlockables allow for it to progressively get more complicated as you get accustomed to the game. It's ultimately quite a simplistic third-person shooter, and you can often spray to achieve results, as long as you don't mind being exposed for a lack of accuracy on the mission complete screen at the end. The main strength of the gameplay is both the movement mechanics and the diverse weapons and methods of destruction you can use to destroy the bugs, bots and anything else that stands in your way. Let's start with the stratagems. They are the most dynamic addition to the gameplay. They allow you to call down airstrikes, turrets, weapons of varying types. You are limited to how many, but it allows you to achieve diverse results across a lot of different missions. This means no two missions are ever the same. You'll always be able to acquire a new stratagem and potentially commit friendly fire with it. The movement mechanics are also a key strength. They allow for you to dive and climb your way across the varied terrains of different worlds. This movement allows you to feel like you can always get yourself out of any dire situation you might find yourself in, even if actually you can't. The game is also very beautiful graphically. The least you'd expect really for a game released in 2024, but it's assisted by the diversity of worlds you visit which put the graphics to the test and all come up positive. Ultimately, the game and the gameplay feels super reactive to your actions as a player, be it through dismembering your allies or the blood splatter of the 1,000 bugs all over your armour, the small details that aren't necessary at all but add so much to a game. The bug blood even lasts between missions if you haven't died, which is kind of crazy. The core strength really of Helldivers 2 is its replayability. It seems obvious in a game that has repetitive core mechanics, as it would really get boring fast if it wasn't replayable. As I mentioned before, things like the new stratagems you can unlock, ship upgrades as well as harder difficulties all contribute to the replayability factor. The increased difficulty levels also bring with them new enemies to face and defeat, and often the government of Super Earth will also set players a collective challenge to control a certain system, group of systems, or even defeat a certain amount of a specific enemy type. In the short time I played last year, the automatons were driven entirely from the world map at one point, only to return upgraded and all fed within the lore of the galaxy. But it also provided players with a new and repeatable challenge. It also helps that the game is cooperative, as your friends can change their stratagems, armor and loadouts as well, so each mission can have each player taking on a different role. You can even just jump in with a group of random people and work together to complete a mission. As I mentioned previously, the game features these diverse worlds, and this adds to the replayability as well. Each world you visit has a varied atmosphere, natural disasters, or even just plant life. It really adds to the replay factor again, and makes the missions unique in their own way. The missions themselves also vary, with different tasks that, after a while of play, can feel quite repetitive. The only thing really keeping them different is that they are housed within all the other different variables and gameplay features that make the game great, so in a way are quite replayable, even if the actual task at hand is the same. Ultimately, the replayability is there because there is something for everyone, of all different skill levels, and is genuinely a game that you can enjoy with friends no matter their progression in the game. You have someone with very few stratagems play with people with lots of them, and it doesn't feel like there's a big skill disparity at all, or any difficulty. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about Helldivers 2 without talking about the controversy that happened around May last year. The controversy began when publisher Sony added a requirement for a PSN account to be linked to Helldivers 2 in May 2024. This upset players for quite a few reasons. The first was that many players could no longer access the game, as PlayStation Network is not available in 118 countries. Another was that there were also security concerns. Sony had been the subject of a data breach as recently as 2023, and so handing over data to Sony didn't seem like the best idea to many players, quite understandably. It also meant that Helldivers became another game in which players were asked to link, sign up to, download third-party software just to be able to play a game, which is something understandably resented by the gaming community, particularly in recent times, as this is the case for so many games. It feels like it's about 90% of games at this point require this. All of this was after 3 months of Helldivers being one of the most popular and played games on Steam, and ultimately felt like a little bit of a bait and switch from Sony to use the success of the game to suddenly get a load of PSN signups. Developer Arrowhead, who actually obviously developed the game, were completely caught off guard by this, and even their community manager, who unfortunately was later removed from his role, encouraged players to collectively negatively review the game. Sony did eventually roll back the requirement, but the damage was already done, as the game got review bombed thanks in part to the Arrowhead community manager and the player base, who unified, and it made the rating of the game on Steam in particular drop significantly, and it's never really recovered. Even players from the countries who could link to a PlayStation Network account decided that they had really no further interest, either in solidarity with those that couldn't access, or because of the aforementioned lack of data security at Sony. So what's the conclusion then? Well, Helldivers 2 is a very, very enjoyable and very replayable co-op shooter. In my opinion, it's the kind of game I would love to see as a Star Wars game, but I don't trust EA to make it properly. If it was these developers with the Star Wars IP, it could be, and I stress could, be incredible. The game is hilarious and really fun, and it's a very genuinely enjoyable co-op experience to be shared with friends. I must give credit to the initial hype last year. Me and my friends loved our playing time together. As I mentioned above, the game is super replayable, it's not hard to get back into, and has strong gameplay elements that facilitate this happening. As mentioned, the huge amount of variation in worlds, enemies, and customization options creates this. It's a game that personally I would really love to get back into, but the controversy has left a sour taste for a lot of people, including some of my friends that I enjoyed playing with, but I might see if I can convince them to come back, as I really enjoyed playing it for this video. It's really a shame for a game that, was one of the best games from last year and has now a huge mark against it. Thanks again to everybody for watching. Have you played Helldivers 2? And if so, what do you think of the game and the controversy surrounding it? Let me know in the comments, because I'll try and reply to all of them if I can. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves in this crazy, crazy world, and peace.
Welcome aboard, Helldiver. The Galactic War needs you.